Hi everyone, welcome to another sewing video. Today I want to continue my historical sewing adventures. I've always wanted to make a full Victorian outfit. And I've already kind of started without realizing it, because I've already made a chemise and I made a corset. So that got me thinking, why not make the outfit now? I think it's time. I'm ready for it. So I went to the amazing Truly Victorian website, which is just an amazing place for historical sewing patterns. So they have this bundle that you can make, where you can pick a skirt, a bodice, and then some undergarments. So petticoats, corset covers, chemise, combinations, all those things. And I kind of mixed and matched a couple of pieces to create my outfit. And I decided to start with the foundation layers. Now, like I said, I have the chemise, I have the corset. So there were two more items that I wanted to make for the foundation part, which is a petticoat and a corset cover. And in this video, we're going to focus on the petticoat. So I got my pattern, which is just the Truly Victorian TV170 Victorian petticoat. There are a couple of different views in this that you can pick. And I went with what's view 4, which is the 1890 to 1970 time period, which matches my corset and the rest of the dress that I picked. And I've already done the prep work, so I printed everything out for the pattern, I taped it all together and cut everything out, so that's ready to go. And I have fabric. I have this really basic plain white cotton. It's been pre-washed and it's ready to go. I also have some trimming, so I have some lace that I want to add to the hem, and because the lace is a slightly different color than the actual fabric, I also have some blue ribbon. Now you may recognize this blue ribbon because I use this for my stays. So I thought if I put the ribbon over the part where the fabric joins the lace, then hopefully it won't be as noticeable that the different shades of white. And it also adds a little bit of blue, which has been a theme across my historical sewing. There's always blue involved. So I really like kind of keeping that tradition going. And I will be hand sewing this. I may regret this decision, but I've also already hand sewn my chemise. And I just thought it would be nice to keep going with the hand sewing, at least for the foundation garments. I'm still not sure if I want to hand sew the actual dress, but I have some time to think about it. First I need to do this, and I will be hand sewing this. So now that we've done all the prep work, I just want to get started. So I'm going to lay my fabric out, I'm going to lay the pattern pieces over it, and I'm going to just cut everything out. So now that everything is cut out, I'm ready to start sewing. And the first thing I need to do is actually sew some darts. So there are darts on the front and the side front. 2 on the front and 1 on each side front. So I've marked them. This time I've been smart and you see you can barely pick it up, which is good. I used some light colored chalk and I marked the inside. I learned from my stays that I shouldn't use brightly colored chalk on the outside because it doesn't always wash off. So I've marked my darts and I'm going to sew them, and I will be using a back stitch for this because I want to make sure that it's really nice and secure. So let's start sewing. And here the darts are all done, and I just quickly press them so that they're nice and crisp, and it's looking great. Up next, I made myself a pot of tea because I had a lot of sewing to do. Because what I had to do next was sew basically the top layer together, all the side seams. So I sewed the back pieces to the side front pieces, and then sewed the side front pieces to the front piece. And once I'd done all of that, I had to finish the seams, and for that I decided to just flat felt the seams. So once the seam was done, I just pressed it flat, trimmed one side of the seam allowance, folded the other over that one, and sewed it down. Once I was done sewing all these seams, I gave it one final press. Then it was time to move on to the center back seam. Now for this seam I had to leave an opening at the top of about 7 to 8 inches. So I just marked the 7.5 inch point. Nice medium between 7 and 8, I guess. And I sewed all the way down from that point. Then once that was done, I pressed the seam open and folded the seam allowance under and sewed that down. And that way the placket opening at the top is also nicely finished, and after one final press it's time to move on to the next layer. So that's the first layer done. Obviously it still needs to be gathered into the waistband, but I'm not there yet. This is at least done. Now I need to move on to the second layer, which is the flounce. So I have the pieces here. They're just 4 kind of long rectangular pieces. And I first need to sew them together, short sides together, so kind of like side seams, and turn it into one ring of fabric. Then we are going to create the tucks. Once I finished sewing together all the seams, it was time to start working on the tucks. Now for the tucks, I first marked where each tuck would be. Then I folded the fabric over and I sewed about 1/2 inch away from the egg. Once I was done sewing, I folded it open and I pressed it once again. And then I just had to do that another 5 times, which took a while. So let's just fast forward to when it's all done. The flounce is done. And as you can see, I added some blue ribbon to it. The main reason was that I realized halfway through doing the tucks that I was doing them wrong. I folded the fabric right sides together, but it should have been wrong sides. So after I realized the mistake, I did the other ones correctly, but you can tell that there's a transition kind of. That's why I added the wider blue ribbon, and I already planned on using that one for the hem, so I felt like it worked to also use it somewhere else. And then I decided to also use a more narrow version of that same ribbon to sew along the start of the tucks, and I think it actually looks really nice like this. I'm really happy with this. It's annoying that I made a mistake, but it's fine. Let's just pretend it didn't happen and that this was the way it was designed to be. Now I need to gather the top edge of this flounce so that I can then later attach it to the bottom edge of the first layer. So I have some really strong thread. I actually use this normally to sew my elastics to my ballet shoes, but I felt like this would work really well, and I'm gonna do 2 rows of gathering stitches, and I'm gonna gather it up to match the bottom edge of the first layer, and then I can sew it together. And then I need to do the same for the ruffle. Now the ruffle I've already prepared, so I did the same as I did for the flounce. I sewed all the pieces together into one big loop, and then it was already kind of done. Now the instructions want you to hem this first before gathering it up and sewing it to the flounce, but because I'm going to add lace to the bottom edge, I want to first put it all together so that I can then put it on and see how long it is, and if I need to trim it a little bit to make the lace fit, basically. So I'm going to gather up both of these, and I'm going to sew the flounce to the top layer and ruffle to the bottom edge of the flounce. Yeah, let's do this. The flounce is now sewn to the top layer, and then the ruffle is also sewn to the flounce. This was a couple of days and hours and hours and hours of gathering and sewing. But at least this part is now done and I think it's looking great. I will say, I don't think this seam between the top layer and the flounce looks amazing. So I'm kind of thinking of adding ribbon to that as well. I'm not sure yet. We'll see if I'm going to do that. Officially, following the instructions, I should be finishing the hem now. But because I'm going to add lace to the hem, I want to see how long the petticoat is and if I then need to trim the ruffle a little bit or not. I've held it up against me and I don't think I need to trim it because it's quite short. Or at least I think it's shorter than it's supposed to be, mainly because I always think I'm average height, but I'm average height in the Netherlands. And the Dutch people are a very tall people. So I'm probably a little bit taller than the pattern is made for. But yeah, it's fine. At least it will mean that I won't have to trim the ruffle as much, or maybe at all. But to try it on properly, I need to add the waistband. I've already prepared the waistband. By preparing, I mean I hemmed the side part, that's going to be opening, and I just pressed it so that it's nice and crisp and I can start working on it. But first, before I can attach it, I need to do some more gathering because I need to gather the back pieces. The front is going to stay ungathered, just the way it is, and then the back is going to be gathered. So I have 2 more little pieces to gather and then I can sew the waistband on and try it on. So now that the waistband is on, I tried it on and it's definitely short enough that I don't need to shorten the ruffle, which is fantastic because now I can just add lace. And I'm just going to attach it to the bottom edge here, as you can see. And then I'm going to add this blue ribbon over the seam, the same as I used here. And that's just to hide the fact that this white is a different shade than this white. And you don't really see it now on camera, but in real life, this one is more for bright white and it is more for warm white, I guess. So I'm going to do all of that. Then I'm probably, not sure yet, still not sure, going to add the braided ribbon here. I've made a little test swatch like that. And I think I'm going to do that. I'm not sure yet. It's going to be a surprise for you and for present me. Future me will know. And once I've done all of that, we can go to the reveal. Very exciting. So that's the finished petticoat. I think it looks great. It fits really nice and I really like that I added the blue ribbon in different places. I think it just helps to make it look a little bit more interesting, and I know it's a petticoat so you're not going to see it when there's a skirt over it, but still, I kind of like this little touch of blue. And yeah, I do have one confession to make. I sewed the final blue ribbon, the one at the hem, on the sewing machine. I'm not happy about it, but my joints in my hands were hurting so much and I just couldn't do it by hand anymore. So I did that on the sewing machine, which I'm not proud of doing, but I need to save my hands. So yeah, but everything else is hand sewn, so that's great. And I really enjoyed it when it wasn't hurting. So that's the petticoat done. Next time we are going to do another part of the foundation garments. Then after that one we can move on to the actual outer layer, the actual dress. So keep an eye out for the rest of these videos. For now, I'm going to leave you with some more close-ups and thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day and I will see you in the next one. Bye.